because you're more open, you're that yellow line. And you know things. I was going to say, wonder if I can do it. You can know things before anybody else knows them. What happens when you know something before anybody else knows it? You're thought of as not knowing anything. You say, this is what this is, and everybody else says, prove it. Where did you read about that? Why do you have to read about it? Why does some other person have to have written about it in order for it to be real? Do you know where a footnote comes from? Oftentimes a footnote comes from just some alcoholic that lived 80 years ago that wrote stuff. And what does school make you do? Footnote your work. Why don't you just go and discover something and write it down? And when they say, how do you know that? You say, I know it because I know it. And they go, that isn't possible. That's what they did to Galileo, isn't it? The first person to really discover that the earth wasn't the center of everything. That it wasn't a geocentric universe. That disrupted religious doctrine. And so what did religion say to Galileo? Take it back. And he did. He took it back and he went under house arrest for the rest of his life. But what happened to his lab partner? His lab partner wouldn't take it back. His lab partner says, no, it's obvious. We used a telescope. We've tracked the planets. We know what we know, what we know. And I'm not taking it back because it's truth. They say, great, we just light you on fire then. And they did. They burned him at the stake in St. Peter's Square. Whoa. I guess the government got that one wrong. Huh? I guess the majority, or whatever you want to call it, got that one wrong, huh? What about the stuff that you know? What about when you get relaxed and open and suddenly your heart is talking louder than your brain and you know something? Can you go with it? Do you have the courage to go with it? Because the only pathway to fulfillment is if you do. You can purchase pleasure, but you cannot purchase fulfillment. And pleasure is a cheap substitute for fulfillment. And ultimately, you have to fulfill yourself. How many lifetimes are you going to wait? Ultimately, you have to become who you know you are. How many people in here think of what I'm saying right now is absolutely ridiculous and it's like coming out from someplace, you know, out of some, you know, crazy man's opium pipe? Now, nobody raises their hand. Well, either you're afraid to, but I don't think that's the case. Nobody raises their hand because you all have deep inside of you a knowing that you are who you are, and that's that. And you're trying to do enough things so that each and every moment of each and every day you can realize that to such a conviction that nothing can stand in your way from being that. That is your true identity. DNA is trying to force your physical, emotional, and psychic identity as your identity. It isn't. Your true identity is that little sensation in the back of your consciousness going, wow, I am better not tell anybody because I won't make any money. And so your physical, emotional, and psychological go like this, shake up your world, and you creep back inside your vessel, and you don't dare reach out into that higher consciousness. Or you're caught in between, and so you live in this anguish, which is a good thing. Or you free yourself. But freeing yourself, you must maintain contact with the physical vessel. You cannot go off to a sannyasi ashram in the mountains of the Himalayas and go, Om Namo Gurudev Namo. And 100 years later, you're just sitting there. And you have not done a thing except created an alternative identity. So it's really important for us on this path to remember the pitfalls of this path. It's really important for us on this path to remember that as we begin to lose the sensation of individuality, as we begin to really have that connection with the people that we're surrounded by, and even the strangers that happen by, and even the idiots that we hear about, the ridiculous government officials that you read about, they're just us. And we've got to have that surrendered compassion. Otherwise, we don't pass through. We get trapped. Because when you feel that somebody in government or somebody in a corporation or somebody in this or somebody in that is a ridiculous idiot, you're identifying yourself as what you think you're not. And that can come pretty close to home. Somebody right in your mere presence, you go, oh, man, you're such an idiot. Your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your aunt, your uncle, your husband, your wife, your friend, your partner, this or that, you know? Just sit in a total relaxed, open state, and you'll have an epiphany, just like I did. There wasn't just sound. There was fumes this afternoon. It was like, I mean, everybody around us went, it was like a smorgasbord of sensory input. And within the center of all that, I said, wow. They're crowding in because they love us. We're so lovable, and I just had to love them back. As their gasoline engines were wafting into the yard, and